the recording has started, just as everyone is aware. So we invited Nicole to talk to us because she has not only a lot of experience in the corporate environment. She worked for Swissair, UBS, Clarendon Loy, Capital Dynamics in her, I would say, the first career, the corporate life, the first part. But then she shifted and laid a lot of focus on culture topics, as well as writing books about how to being effective as a leader. So we are more than thrilled to have her here today with us and talking and sharing her expertise on that topic. Nicole, I would unmute you now and hand over to you if that worked. You seem still to be muted. Maybe now, yes, now it looks perfect. So the floor is yours. Thank you very much, Nicole.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark, and all the guys from Advisor. I'm really, really grateful to be here. And I also want to thank you who are in the audience, even though I don't see you. It's a little bit an awkward feeling not to see you and not to sense you. But I would like to thank you that you're joining here, because it's such a gorgeous, magnificent day. And I can understand if you rather are with your loved ones or with your friends in the fresh air. So kudos to you who are here and joining us. And hopefully I can inspire you with some of my inputs. Let me go to my presentation. Exactly. Okay. So you are all in business, and you are all you all want to thrive. That's how man is wired. But how come that some people rise to extraordinary and reach incredible heights, and others struggle and hardly figure out the basics in life? And the problem is, you know, that most of us, and I'm sure you do too, most of us live way, way beyond our potential. We are busy being busy. We are distracted by the noise of the world. We are hassling, managing all the challenges of the turbulent times, and we are occupied with this uncomfortable feeling of uncertainty of how the economy will be, how our income will be, how our future will be. And I totally get that. That's my job, dealing with people like you who have this uncomfortable feeling. But, you know, if you look at people who have risen to extraordinary, who inspire us, in business, in science, in sports, in entertainment, the Madonnas, the Messis, the Steve Jobs of the world, they do two things. They first own their craft. They are excellent in what they do. And I know that you are all great experts. I know that you own your craft. But there is another thing. You know, we say 5% of the people on the planet, they reach extraordinary, and it's not a matter of mere talents, it's a matter of tactics. Why? Because they do a thing most of the people miss out, and that is own their power. And that is not a matter of expertise, it's a matter of personality, it's a matter of self-mastery. And that's where, if you do that, that's where you find resilience against all adversity, against all odds. That's where you also find creativity, especially in times of disruption. And that's also where you find your inner wisdom, your intuition. And if you don't master that power, if you don't own your power, you give a lot of that power away. And then it can happen that you're good in your job, and you're even successful, but you feel something is missing. Because when we miss out on our potential, when we are not living up to it, then sooner or later it can become really frustrating. But if you actually do, if you do own your power, you can make the shift from, let's say, confusion to clarity, from feeling stuck in or trapped in your daily grind to breaking through, then you get that magnificent feeling of authenticity, of autonomy and audacity. And then you can really move from success, having success, you're all successful, from being a true inspiration. And that doesn't only make you happier, but it makes other people happier. So here is an incomplete list I want to share with you, which I have established from my masters, from my trainers, from my teachers, and with my own contribution. And the first one is define who you are. And that's a tough one. I once met Bob McKee. He's one of the biggest Hollywood script writers. He's in the Hall of Fame. And why I say that is I learned tremendous things of him. Good Hollywood script writers are good psychologists. And he said, you know, Nicole, the story, we go to the movies to get answers to our lives. And the story reflects our life, and the character reflects ourselves. And actually, you know, we are always in the movies. You always find four main roles, and that is the victim, the villain, the hero, and the guide. And you all play different roles in your life. You are brothers and sisters. You are sons and daughters. You are moms and dads. You are employees and bosses. And depending on what role you play, you display a different behavior. And usually we know which destination we want to go, but we usually are not aware from which role we act. So you can approach each role from a different point of angle. And we play our these four roles of life every day. And the more aware we are from where we want to act, from where we want to play the game, the more powerful it is. So more awareness, better choices, better results. So let me quickly go through those four roles. The victim is criticizing, the victim is complaining, the victim is gossiping, and we all do that. My point is, you know, we fall into that, but my point is that you should be aware of that and never ever play the victim. Never. Because there is no benefit. You might get a short-term benefit, you might get some attention right at the beginning, but actually nobody wants to be around victims. It's not a very attractive role. Then we have the second role, and that is the villain. The villain is actually here for only one purpose, and it is to make the hero look good. And we all play the villain when, for instance, with our kids or with our employees, because we have the power and we easily abuse it. And I don't want to tell you, hey, you're playing the bad guy, but we all do in a certain way once in a while. So these are two roles you never ever want to play. Then we have the two roles we all want to play, and that is the hero. The hero is a person of character. The hero is a person of integrity. The hero is somebody who is facing the challenges and not complaining or criticizing or finding excuses for that. And the hero is taking control and dealing with them, no matter how hard it is. And that's basically the place you want to act from. And the next one is the more advanced one is the guide. The guide is somebody who has already gone through all the challenges, who already has accumulated the wisdom, who has already transformed. And the guide is somebody who takes the hero by the hand and help him rise and succeed better, faster, and easier. So, you know, if you get aware of where you want to act from and not only where you want to go, that is incredibly powerful, because picture, you are always seen by your kids, by your employees, by your bosses, by your neighbors. So it really matters from which part of the role you want to act from. And that is very, very powerful. So next time you face a difficult situation, ask yourself, oh, am I playing the victim here? Okay, correct. And then approach it as the hero. So don't give away that power of playing the wrong role, playing the wrong role, or falling into the wrong role. Own that power. My second point here is not only choose who you want to be, but choose also what you want. And that sounds so banal, but it's actually not. It's incredibly powerful when you know exactly what you want. You know, when Neil Armstrong and his colleagues came back from the moon, something happened nobody had expected. I mean, all of these astronauts were masters of their game. They had flown jets, they had survived the war, they were well trained to take a walk among the crates of the moon. NASA had anticipated all risks, all eventualities, but they did not expect the one thing, and that is the crate of their emotions they fell into when they came back from the moon. Some of them started to drink, some of them started to gamble, some of them started to struggle with everything, because what was there after flying to the moon? We all need something to go for, but that something has to do something to us. It has to touch our heart. It has to touch our soul, something that lights us up, because that's what gives us meaning. That moves us forward, and that moves us forward beyond tomorrow, beyond next week, beyond next month, beyond next year. It is something that pulls us into the future. And you know, so many people are successful, but they're stagnating. They're not moving forward inside of them. So many people live either without a life goal or without a life purpose. Other people live in the past and let them be pulled back, and other people constantly let them be pulled on the side and get distracted. You're so prone to be seduced by the noise of the world, and that gets you nowhere if you're getting distracted by everything. Or we get crushed by the daily grind, by a difficult month or by difficult times like now. The power of purpose, the power of having a huge goal, the power of having a life vision, a dream, is like a north star lighting the way, especially when the valley is dark. And you don't have to fly to the moon, but you should reach for your stars in your own world. And Les Brown says it so beautifully, you know, reach for the moon. Even if you miss it, you will land among the stars. The problem is most of the people don't have that huge goal. They don't have a life vision, a purpose. 95% of the people are coasting through life. You might have a business goal, but not a true life goal which inspires you, which lifts you up. You might have this standard dream. I lived the standard dream until I found out it was not my dream. It was society's dream. I was pleasing society. But I'm sure you have that dream, and maybe it's faded, maybe it's shattered, maybe it's forgotten. But exactly then, it's when you happen to be trapped in your daily grind, and that is not inspiring. That is not pushing you forward. And and you know, that life vision doesn't just fall from the sky. You need devotion. You need to sit down and think about it and develop it and give it some time to unfold and time to get bigger and time to get more precise, because we all know how to set goals. We have C goals. We know exactly where we know exactly how to reach that goal. We have B goals. It's already a little bit more difficult to get that, but actually I'm talking about an A goal, that you can play your A game. An A goal is where you've never been before, where you have to stretch, where you really unleash through your completely new powers so that you can grow, because that's exactly basically what we're here for, to grow. If we don't, we stagnate and then we perish. So people need a goal, otherwise they are lost like these astronauts. And if you sit down and dedicate yourself to find that, please permit yourself to really, really think big, because we have such a tendency to to think average, to not have huge fantasies of what we are capable of. So this combination of being humble in personality, but being very ambitious according with your vision, with your dreams, with your goals, that is a very, very powerful combination. So own that power, because it was not the rocket which brought those astronauts to the moon. It was the dream of mankind, and that gives us the meaning. The rocket gives the power, the physical power, but the rocket, the dream gives us this incredible force of meaning driving forward, and that's where the power is. So own that power. My next point is rise above. You know, when Gutenberg was working on the printing press, 99% of the world population was not able to read. And maybe that tiny percentage of the people who could read, who were able to read, not all of them had reading glasses. And yet he said, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Edison was the same. You know, when he was tinkering with his electric bulb, there was no power grid providing you with electricity. But he didn't care. He did it anyway. He just did it. And the same with Elon Musk. He was puzzling over his electromobile, and there were no charging stations for electromobiles on the planet. And yet, what did he say? I'm going to do it anyway. You know, in adversity, it's so easy to say, oh, if my boss would have given me that, I could have risen. Or if circumstances would be easier, I could have done this. But adversity is actually a great opportunity to show what's in you, and you have infinite potential. And when the going gets tough, we usually blame three things. And usually it's the circumstances, other people, or we beat ourselves up. And that doesn't bring us any further. Because, you know, once when I was still a teenager, I was reading a book, and I read a sentence which really changed my life. And it said, whom you give the blame, you give the power. So don't give that power away. A surefire plan for unhappiness is when circumstances do not match your vision or your blueprint of the world. And you can either change circumstances, and you can try to change the weather, or you can try to change the markets, or you can change your blueprint and distinguish exactly what can you control and what. So take control of what you can, and that is your blueprint, and rise above the circumstances and go and do it anyway. You cannot predict the future, but you can predict in what attitude you approach the things and in what attitude you show up. So rise above circumstances and then do it anyway. It's very powerful. Own that power. My next point is break through. Break through your own limits. You know, when we have finally defined our big goal, our life vision, our dream, then the pushbacks come, then the hurdles, the challenges, the naysayers come, and you have to deal with that. And that's a pretty tough. That's pretty tough. You're busy doing that, and it sometimes might feel that when you have to defend your big dream against all odds, that you're really fighting against all odds and are alone. But you know, besides the outer enemies, there is the biggest enemy, enemy number one, which make people give up, which make people not even start, and and um, and that is your fear, your self-doubt, your fear. And everybody, I mean, every hero is absolutely scared, but they go anyway. That's why they become heroes. And we are so good in pushing away the fear because it's a very uncomfortable feeling and we can push it away. But if you do, then you're toast. Because you can never go further than your fear. But actually, you know, in coaching, I always say, you know, where the fear is, there is the gold, because that's where the breakthroughs happen. That's where you go further. That's where you grow. That's where you push through. And and we are so good in pushing away the fear because it comes disguised as three things: excuses, okay, market is not ready, let's not do it, or my wife doesn't want it, or my partner doesn't want it, or the kids are not up for that. Or procrastination, we push it for later. Oh, we don't have the budget, let's do it later. Or distraction, we are so good in getting that bad feeling away, which just getting busy with other stuff, so this feeling cannot come up. And I know that feeling very, very well. I once realized 3 days later, because I was so busy, what I was actually afraid of. And in times of disruption, that is fatal because um, we give a lot of potential away, because change means bigger, higher, wider, faster. But transformation means different. And we have to become different in these transformative times. And becoming different needs a culture of not execution, but a culture of experimentation. And research shows that so many companies give away their power because they're they're afraid of failure, they're afraid of getting ridiculed, they're afraid of losing time, they're afraid of losing money, even afraid of being successful sometimes, as paradox as this might sound. And the solution here is really to face your fear and identify it. And we're usually afraid of three things. And this is loss of money, loss of time, loss of health, loss of love, loss of freedom, sometimes even loss of life. And the second thing is we are afraid of the process. Will it be painful? Will it be hurtful? Absolutely, because if it's not, then success would be so easy. And all heroes can tell tragedies um, and and really heartbreaking stories of going through on the path to their extraordinary success. And we are third, we are also afraid of the result. What if the result is not what I actually wanted to achieve? What if I fail? And you remember maybe Edison saying, I didn't fail, I just found out 1,000 ways how not to do it. And I remember the story of Konosuke Matsushita, the founder of Panasonic. I read his biography when I was 17 years old, and he had to start working with 6 years. He didn't have an education. He was dirt poor, and yet he built an empire. And on that way, he had to go through so many tragedies. He lost all his family. And I remember reading his book, and there was one sentence which carried me through so many dark hours in my life. And he said, "You can always be successful, no matter the circumstances." And um, and when I was invited as a coach and started to be more on stage, I was so afraid. I was so afraid of you as an audience. I was so afraid of failure. I was so afraid of being ridiculed that I didn't just lose my voice. I lost the capacity of speaking. And that was really traumatic. So I had to really work hard and really figure out what is making me so scared. And um, and Konosuke Matsushita helped me go through that dark time. And afterwards, I had another sentence which really helped me break through. And that was um, Bertrand Piccard, whom I had the pleasure to meet one time and have tea with him. And I said, "Bertrand, are you not afraid to die?" And he said, "Yes, of course I'm afraid." And I said, "Well, what do you do then?" And he said, "I fly anyway." So whenever you sense that fear, whenever fear threatens you, threaten that fear back, because that's where the breakthrough is. That's where the gold is. That's where you get further. And make it like Bertrand Piccard. When you have fear, face the fear. Let fear not be the hurdle. Let fear be your guide. Fly anyway. And that is very, very powerful. And I'm come to my second last one, and that is accelerate your progress. All heroes go through hell. Otherwise, it's not a story of transformation. And when it gets worse, the heroes get help. And there is always help. You can always get help. James Bond has Q, Frodo Beutlin has Gandalf, Kathleen of the Hunger Games has Haymitch. And my question to you is, who do you have? We know, we are totally aware of that we cannot do things alone. We need people. And we have teams, we get experts, but these experts help us succeed and get better in owning our craft. But we are so lonely fighters when it comes down in owning our power, our not only owning our craft, but owning our power. And that is not a good thing. We are born into communities, but we really have to look for the right people who bring us further. And that is, you cannot take that for granted. You cannot just take it for granted that these are your loved ones. Your loved ones give you your security, safety, love, but they don't have to professionally give you advice in owning your power, in your personal growth, in your personal mastery. So we need people who give us feedback without own agenda, who give us who correct our weaknesses, because sometimes, we have imagination of our weaknesses, and in fact, that's where our true power lies. We have to have people who help us bend reality and expand our poor self-image. And we have to get people who help us doubt only one thing, and that is our own limits. So my question to you is, who inspires you? who has your back, who lifts you up when things are going down, who opens up new worlds and inspires you and cheers you on that you go further. And, you know, people whom you trust, people who professionally help you um, uh, uh, develop uh, develop you further in your personal mastery is tremendously uh, powerful. So don't give away, so don't waste that power, don't give away that power, own that. And I come to my last one, which sounds also so simple, but is really, really difficult, because we all find is really difficult, um, and that is being true to yourself. You know, I saw a movie on Netflix where the hero, said or had a tattoo over his chest, and the tattoo said, "Nothing here," and reminded me of my corporate life when I was living in the finance world. And kudos to finance world. I loved being in that. It was a fascinating world. But I come from this corporate culture where it was no pain, no emotion, and it was tough. We were tremendously successful, but we were also suffering. We were cool, but we were really cutting emotions out. And, you know, if you want to be true to yourself, you cannot solve problems just listening to your reason, just going through logics. And that's what we actually very often do when we are in challenges. We go to our reason, we do checklists. Okay, what is the advantage and what is the disadvantage? But reason will bring you into safety, and it's screaming loud, because we are hardwired for negativity. Our 2 million-year-old brain is always looking for risk, and it wants to bring us into safety. But if you want to rise to your extraordinary, you gotta listen to yourself, and we don't trust us. And this inner voice is actually whispering. And if you train to listen to yourself, to listen to that inner voice, that is very, very powerful, because that's when you are listening to that. It might be uncomfortable, but it's very, very strong, because, you know, we don't acquire strength, we live the strength. Then when we have the courage to be true to ourselves, then when we are standing up for our own values, what is valuable to us, and then that has the beautiful benefit that you light up your inner fire. That's where the fire comes back to your belly. That's where the passion arises. That's where enthusiasm is triggered off. And nothing is more inspiring when you have somebody, you know, who is so enthusiastic and thrilled and nearly positively obsessed about their own quest, about their own mission. And you sense that. It's, you know, enthusiasm comes 10% from outside, but 90% from inside, from deep inside. And it doesn't have to be loud, but it's very, very powerful, because it's genuine. It comes from a genuine part of purpose. It comes from an authentic place of really wanting to do something, or helping other people and serving them. So don't cut those emotions out. Emotions are the connection to true life. That's where we grow. That's where we feel thrilled, and that's where we feel alive. So have the courage to be true to yourself. And courage comes from the word core, and core means heart. And with the heart, I really mean that organ which no doctor has ever located in a human body. It's your heart, where you really hear your own whispers where you can be true to yourself. It's very powerful. So own that power. So we all fight the same battles. We have the same economy. We have the same harsh winds blowing against us. We are all struggling with the same strong winds. But the difference is on how you show up. And if you only own your craft, you can be successful. But if you own your power, you can rise to your extraordinary. And that is a decision. You know, nobody asks you to define who you are, to choose what you want. Nobody asks you to rise above circumstances or to seek other people who help you accelerate your progress, or nobody asks you to be true to yourself. You have to ask it from yourself. And when you don't, sooner or later, you know, that can be frustrating. There can be, you can get stuck in adversity. But if you really do, if you start to own your power, master it, then you can really rise to what you are, extraordinary. And I totally believe that you all have this tremendous potential of rising to extraordinary, and then you can do extraordinary. So don't give away that power, don't waste it, but own it. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Nicole. I would want to do two things. Number one, please add any questions in the chat. I think some first ones are coming in. Nicole is a breath of fresh air. Yes, I agree. Yeah. Okay, good. So it seems to be good timing. While we maybe get some questions in there, Nicole, I would dare to ask some of my own questions. I have a long list, but I would just start with maybe one. Thinking back, I mean, you have now shared with us these 6 superpowers or 6 elements. When you think back to your career or times in the finance world, which one would you say is the one that needs the most attention, the most work on, or maybe it's also the one that if somebody is in that world, the one to attack first to have the biggest impact?
All of them, Mark. But I think you can
it doesn't
start.
count.
I think you really have to start with you know, deciding who you want to be. You know, to get this awareness, do I want to be victim of the circumstances, or do I want to act from a place of grace and dignity? And then when you know that, you automatically act differently. You don't have to ask, oh, what should I do now? Just go back and say, hey, am I acting from a place of victim, or am I acting from a place of hero? You know, and we love those movies, hero, because we can identify with, and then the answer just comes directly with you. And then the second one is truly sit down and define what you want. 97 or 95% of the people don't know what they want, and it's not easy. But easy doesn't, not, you know, not being easy is not an argument why not to do it. But that's the most powerful.
Okay, maybe just a second question. Maybe I see a lot of thanks in the chat, but not really questions so far. Some need to jump off. Yes, I mean, I will just quickly run through some elements of Advisor afterwards, but I mean, if you have to go, enjoy the evening. Thanks a lot for joining. We have one question here coming in. How would you influence the young generation accordingly, or is this something that comes with experience?
I would just really by living it, by being an example, by influencing as an example, by being a role model. And what I want to add here is, you know, you might, I'm sure you all have heard what I just said. You know, it's common knowledge, but the point is it's not common practice. So don't disregard or devaluate or de-appreciate these ideas, because that's the only path where you can really rise.
Okay, thank you. So maybe one last question of my end, if nothing else comes up. You mentioned once in your talk now the culture of experimentation. Now, me myself, having lived in big corporates myself, I know this is always aspired, but then still very, very hard to do. Is there anything you would give to people living in the big organizations? How to get there? How to make it happen?
Well, I would implement a team, and it has to be a direct report. It has to be an issue of absolute priority, and has to be a priority of the top management. It cannot be delegated, and it is. I would establish a team really trying to implement new things, trying things out, because you can't just change everything, because you have to have the balance between stability and breaking through, and breakthroughs can destabilize. So it's actually a parallel process, and you have to try that out, and you have to do everything parallel and not do it to just give it to some teams.
Okay, so it seems maybe agile as a word here can also help. So I will quickly share some more information here. First of all, I would like to point to two sources here where you can find more about Nicole, about her books, about her coaching, about everything is on nicolebrandes.ch, and also obviously on LinkedIn, where it's real simple, just Nicole Brandes, and you will find her very, very fast. With this, I would just want to walk you through very briefly what we do at Advisor. So we are also looking into what makes successful teams. And we are convinced that it's not about the single individual only, but how people collaborate. So maybe to relate to what you said, Nicole, it's maybe the hero plus the guide. You need really need more than one. You need a team to be successful. And then these together really works as culture when you think of companies. And where we look at is on two areas. Number one, it's what is a corporate culture? How can you grasp it? How can you measure it? That's one element where we look at, and the other one is how can we make improvements and maybe foster a few of the things that also Nicole mentioned today. When we look at this, this is an Outlook add-in that we developed. This is really to foster change. You can try it out for free if you just go on AppSource or in the Outlook and add an add-in Advisor for Outlook. You can try it out. Currently, this is similar is there. This will be built. It's all around being aware on how you communicate, especially when within digital communication, you lack a lot of the information. You lack the face, the tone of voice, the body gesture, all these is missing. That's why we think we almost developed here a guide also helping you when it's maybe tough with the tough emails, with the tough communication and discussions over the digital channel. And the second element we look at is really understanding the company culture. Here it's around looking into collaboration, how has it changed over time, or trust, or also the whole topic of silos. Now, I don't want to go into all the details, but I would want just one ask. Maybe if you are dealing in your lives, in your business lives, with something around corporate culture or the challenges around it. We are currently doing a report, writing a report on corporate culture and Corona, trends, general problems, as well as best practices and solutions in there. And we are doing interviews as we speak. So if you are interested or if you would like to participate, just reach out to me. That's mark@advisor.io. Then maybe just real quick, we have on the 17th of June, so in a month, the next session again digital, again a webinar. You can go under rcc08eventbrite.com or just go on this event. I'm sure when you click on it now, you will find the new one already up. Claudia Tali will talk about decision making, great decision making, and maybe also overcoming some of the biases that are connected. Exactly. So with this, I want to thank you everyone a lot for joining in today. I might quickly share, stop the sharing, and give the opportunity for some last questions in there. Thank you very much. Further ideas might support this. I don't know if we have any material also that we could share, Nicole, afterwards.
Well, you're free to use my 5 slides or my 7 slides if that helps you remind you of what I said.
Okay. Then what else do we have? Experience. So it seems people also know you already. So more thank you. So yes, I will just add my big thank you again and wish you all who joined a wonderful evening and hopefully till the next webinar.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you everyone for attending. Bye. Bye.
Thanks. Bye everyone.